media because we are really tired of being headlines.
So, you also had a number of people pointing out recently that Claudia had said that she would not leave social media on her own accord. So, because of that, many people think that in fact she was forced to record this video. But for now, we have to kind of just wait and see. But I will say I am surprised if nothing happens. I know that one of the things Claudia has repeated in the past is that her parents are just too powerful. But also, at the same time, if she is telling the truth that in addition to all of the stuff that we're just now seeing, that she has hours and hours of footage of what could only be described as mistreatment, how she would still be stuck there. But do not mistake this as me believing that Claudia is lying about everything with her mom, because as I said, and this is a bias, I believe that Kellyanne Conway is one of the worst people in the world, so I believe that she is capable of any amount of horrible things. But yeah, I mean, with this story, I really would love to know your thoughts. Like, what do you think is happening? What do you think should happen here? Let me know what you're thinking and why in those comments down below, whether this is a new story for you or this is something that you've been kind of eyeing for a while. Then, in other news around parents, so we should talk about an interview between Tyler Ninja Blevins and a reporter from the New York Times reigniting a conversation about streamers' responsibility to hold audiences accountable. Ninja, if you don't know, is a famed and massive streamer, and in this interview, the reporter starts off by noting that Blevins is watched for hours on end pretty much every day, and they ask Ninja how such a deeply unnatural activity affects him. With Blevins saying that streaming makes you super self-conscious, you have to be the most sure person on the planet if you're going to get into this and not be completely torn apart. From there, the reporter asks Blevins if he thinks that toxic comments can be mitigated or if they're just intrinsically tied to gaming, to which Blevins says, "I don't think it's gaming, I think it's internet culture. Your information and data are precious and should remain private, but it sucks that there are kids who can say racist things and be incredibly aggressive and threatening to women online and have zero repercussions." With Blevins going on to say that it all comes down to parenting, adding, "Here's another thing. How does a white kid know he has white privilege if his parents never teach him or doesn't talk about racism? If they're gaming and their first interaction with racism is one of their friends saying the N-word and they have no idea what it is, what if it was on my stream? Is it my job to have this conversation with this kid?" No, because the first thing that's going on in my head is this kid is doing this on purpose to troll me. It's awful, but that's the first thing I think of. And so this interview, these statements, they blew up, became headlines of their own, but also leading to some backlash online, or you had people saying things like, "No, you're in a situation of privilege, you have a responsibility to do these things." However, we've also seen many people defending Blevins, noting that he's spoken up about issues of race in the past. Blevins' wife Jessica, for example, saying he does his part. He just isn't holding a seminar on the topic. With Ninja himself also responding now, saying, "It is not my job to sit down and make a video with all of my audiences and do a lesson on civil rights and how to not be a racist." Then, in other news about creators who have had to speak to their audiences about the N-word, nailed that transition. The king of YouTube himself, PewDiePie, aka Felix, returning to YouTube following a 2-week break. But the thing that has gotten a lot of attention is that over the weekend he announced that he was going to do sort of a reverse face reveal, following in the steps of popular creators like Dream and Corpse Husband who use avatars to hide their real identity, with Felix joking that he was doing this only to stay relevant, also asking his fans to help him pick a face, and in 2 videos he posted yesterday, he officially unveiled 2 different virtual versions of himself. And the reaction has been mixed. Some kind of just jumping in on the joke, others confused, is this a real thing? Is this like the future of PewDiePie? Meanwhile, a number of people in the VTuber community have been less receptive, with a number calling his fan base toxic, saying that they're worried about how this is going to affect the community at large. But like I said, the reaction has been mixed. Some also saying that PewDiePie doing this, it brings more eyes and awareness to this community. But also, to me, I don't think it's a big deal when already established creators are doing this. I just don't. There was similar backlash when Pokimane did this, and honestly, I'm not against doing this for myself. If I could just face track from home with my own VTuber version of myself, I'd probably take this show to 7 days a week. And to the people that are against others adopting this, this is kind of an all-consuming statement, but just because you did something first doesn't mean you get to gatekeep it from everyone else. Obviously, not every situation is one-to-one. You have cultural differences, respecting things, stuff like that. But when we're talking about this, it's such an overblown situation. And then in business entertainment news, we should definitely talk about the changing world of entertainment, specifically TV subscriptions and cord cutting. And this because we're seeing reports and data come out saying that, cord cutting, people canceling their TV subscriptions, has actually slowed down during the pandemic, which does make sense. People have been stuck at home, probably more reliant on that media. But as I hope that you know, this moment in time is not forever, which is a hopeful note for your sanity, but a horrifying note for pay TV service. Because new forecasts are predicting that pay TV subscriptions will shrink 36% over the next 5 years, which is huge. I mean, for comparison's sake, between 2015 to 2019, it only shrank 9.5%. And so with this, there are two main things that you should expect to see: continual building and now a new wave of content specifically aimed at digital. And secondly, a potential fight over sports content. This because, as places like Axios have explained, with many major sports contracts set to expire in the next few years, analysts predict that the ultimate collapse of the cable TV model will happen when a tech or streaming company finally is granted rights to stream a major sports franchise. Also noting that AT&T's top executive John Stankey has considered dropping its exclusive rights to the NFL's Sunday Ticket package from its DirecTV satellite service. And as far as what happens in the future, I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see, but I also wanted to do something a little bit different with this story, which is why this morning I polled you guys. Quick note, actual polling companies, there is a science to it. This is just kind of a community outreach, see what you guys think. You're consuming a news show on the internet, a majority of you on your phone, so there's already a lean to you. But still, it was eye-opening that only 14% of you have a TV subscription, with 8% saying you have one but plan on canceling, 28% saying you already canceled it, and 50% saying you never even had one. Which also makes me find myself agreeing with comments like this one, saying this feels like a generational thing. My parents still have cable, but I haven't had cable ever in my adult life. But also, comments kind of noting that maybe in the future we will see more bundling, with people noting that as the market becomes more saturated with all these streaming services, the cost is getting very close to that of a cable TV subscription. And then let's take a second to pay some bills and thank the fantastic sponsor of today's show, Squarespace. Whether they need a domain, a website, an online store, a whatever, make it with Squarespace. Squarespace empowers people of all kinds to create their online web presence or launch their passion projects, and it's a place so many people trust and where everyone can find and make a home. It's also easy to see why. There is nothing to install, patch, or upgrade ever, and creating a beautiful website with Squarespace's all-in-one platform has never been so simple. It is extremely intuitive and easy to use. Also, it includes fantastic things like gaining access to their award-winning marketing tools and analytics, and you can get personalized support from their award-winning customer care team via email or live chat. Whatever you need, they are available 24/7 to help you out. So if you want to check it out, maybe start on that thing that you've been holding off on, just go to squarespace.com/Phil, and when, not if, you realize you love it, make sure you enter in offer code PHIL to get 10% off your first purchase. Then, in other business news, we had Norway slapping Grindr with a fine of 100 million kroner, or 11.7 million US, and this for illegally giving private user details to advertising companies. With the Norwegian Data Protection Authority saying that the app gave user locations, tracking codes, and the app's name to at least 5 companies. And as the New York Times, which broke the story yesterday, explained, this essentially tagged individuals as LGBTQ without their explicit consent. And in addition to this being a violation of European privacy laws, I mean, the authority is also concerned that it puts users who live in countries where consensual same-sex acts are illegal in danger. Now, with all this, a Grindr spokesperson claims that the app does obtain legal consent, but the Norwegian Data Protection Authority says they do not believe that this consent is valid. This because users were forced to agree to the privacy policy in its entirety to use the app and were not specifically asked about sharing data with third parties. The group also claiming information about data sharing was not properly communicated with app users. And then, let's talk about our douchebags of the day. We have 2 today. 55-year-old Rodney Baker, who's the CEO and president of Great Canadian Gaming Corporation, which owns more than 20 casinos across Canada, and his wife, 32-year-old actress Ekaterina Baker. You know, the reason for this is in Canada, officials have been working hard to ramp up on COVID-19 vaccination. And in the Yukon Territory specifically, health workers have been giving priority to remote communities with elderly and high-risk populations, as well as limited access to healthcare. One of those areas is Beaver Creek, which is home to many members of the White River First Nation. And so the reason these 1%ers are our douchebags of the day, they're in the news, is they reportedly flew from Vancouver to Whitehouse, then chartering a private plane to this remote community, where they then went to a mobile clinic where they claimed that they were new hires at a nearby hotel so they could get the Moderna vaccine. Now, because of how small the population is there, and the fact that after they got the vaccine, they just went straight back to the airport, it raised some eyebrows. Because, according to local news outlets, as far as their punishment, both individuals received 2 fines, one for failing to self-isolate, and the second for failing to follow their signed declaration, adding up to $1,150 each, which you could otherwise just think of as rich people tax. When they flew a private jet to skip the line and get this vaccine, they're gonna care about $1,000? I mean, his annual compensation in 2019 was $10.6 million, right? Which is why we're seeing Indigenous locals and leaders outraged, calling for a stiffer punishment. And sure, Rod Baker has resigned from his role at Great Canadian, with a spokesperson for the company saying it has no tolerance for actions that run counter to the company's objectives and values. Though, that company is also probably not excited for this extra attention, since they're currently also the subject of a separate money laundering probe. Then, in international news, we have protests, riots, riots, people in power stepping down. And we'll start with the Netherlands, where for the third night in a row, Dutch police clashed with protesters and rioters in 10 cities across the country, including in major ones like Rotterdam, Amsterdam, and The Hague. All of that leading to 184 arrests. And as far as why people are protesting, reportedly the protests were sparked over frustrations at a 9 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. curfew that is supposed to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Right, there are doubts among a lot of people about how effective this curfew is at stopping the spread, in addition, of course, to standard misinformation that we've seen regarding COVID-19. Also, last night there, a COVID-19 testing site was burnt